All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 26th NSA Ad Hoc meeting. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And tomorrow we have, share my screen. Tomorrow we have the actual case management conference in San Francisco with the court. Here it is, right here on our timeline. And if you want to attend, this is for people from the public, as well as obviously people in the ad hoc. I already have instructions and information on how to get there, where to go. It's at 3 o'clock, 450 Golden Gate Avenue, um, courtroom number 2 on the 17th floor. So feel free to join. Anyone from the public is allowed to join. And unfortunately, I will not be able to be there tomorrow because I have another committee that I chair, and I remembered that I moved our time from the morning to the afternoon so more people could attend. So and that meeting starts at 4, so I won't be there. But I believe the chair and vice chair may be there. So if another commissioner would like to go in person and they express that, know that I won't be there. So with that, that's the end of the timeline for this portion of the NSA ad hoc, and then for our meeting coming up, I have reached out, or I've asked Micah to reach out to a member of the public to see if they would like to join the ad hoc. Have you heard back from?
I have not.
Okay. Um, so if there are people from the public who would like to join the NSA ad hoc, feel free to reach out to our chief of staff, and we will see if we can accommodate you. Um, but tonight, what we're going to discuss are the case management conference. Our statement has been filed and is part of the package of documents that went to the judge that he's going to review during the case management conference itself tomorrow. And so we view this as there's two parts to the case management conference. There's the statement that we've submitted and that we've reviewed all the way from several months ago up until our last meeting, and the one that we voted on. And then there's the talking points portion. We actually state to the court that the chair of the commission will do tomorrow. So, what we talked about at our meeting last Thursday, and what we'll discuss tonight, and what we started to discuss at our last NSA ad hoc meeting, which was, when was that? 2 weeks ago, I believe. I'm going to quickly go over what we discussed then and Thursday, and then we can review that stuff and then let the chair weigh in on what he's planning on discussing and any thoughts on any of that feedback. So at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, both Director Lawson, thank you for joining us, Vice Chair Booker, uh, Director Lawson and Vice Chair Booker, they had input on, uh, saying something to combat the narrative, but in a constructive way and show how CPRA is not impeding the compliance of Task 2. That was one set of feedback from both of them, was just combating narratives, and then that was a specific narrative to potentially combat if we feel it's a narrative. The chair stated that when he is going to talk to the court, that he's also going to point out the three key objectives to achieving sustained cultural change that are in our statement. Chief of Staff said to say something about the chief search, which I also think is a really good idea to say something about that. That's no doubt going to come up. And my feedback was I got a couple things here. Um, let's see, reiterate discussing. Oh, so like in our past CMC statement, the one from July, we talked about starting the turnover process somehow and giving the commission a little bit more skin in the game and just being prepare, being proactive instead of just reactive to whenever they do get out of compliance, starting that process more now, and maybe just a sentence or two touching on that. That hey, the commission is ready to proceed with that when the court deems necessary, and it would be helpful to everybody, maybe specifically to this working group that the court directed to be put together to start to come up with some sort of proposal or way or just discussions about how to go about doing that. Maybe he wants to direct them to do that at this case management conference. Um, and I'm not sure if we want this to be brought up, but my personal feelings, and this is something that I don't know if it's just me, but the weaponization of the reappointment process. I don't know if you would want to say that or even say it like that, but is a potential self-governance issue, and it may just be something to highlight how the tasks that are remaining, at least two of them, 2 and 5, have to do with self-governance at OPD, and how this discussion about how OPOA or people at OPD are working to influence city council on who gets reappointed is a potential it is a conflict of interest, and it's bias, and it leads to, at a minimum, leads to perception of bias. So those are just things to think about. I'm just putting that out there. Um, and that's my input from what everyone wanted to, have as input, and my input as well. Thoughts on that, Chair? Would you like to, say a little bit about what you planned on saying and what your thoughts are on the feedback?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. And again, I don't know what I'll have 3 to 5 minutes, if that, right? So I got to shoot my shot, be very concise. And I think the information you provided right now, I think is some really good pointers. And I don't know how much more we could sneak in or fit into that the time I will get to address the court. I do think that um I think that we could talk about everything that we have done in our statement. I like how you laid it out, allude to the fact that the last one, case conferencing, people got caught up in semantics. We want to call it a co-compliance director. You want to call it whatever you want. Like we just were simply saying that we wanted more skin in the game and a chance to demonstrate and learn and start beginning to identify key areas for a potential transition into our localized oversight, right? Um, I think I think some things that show that we are moving forward with, like um position ourselves to have skin in the game, whether they're giving it to us or not, whether the judge gave it to us or not. Apparently it went over everybody's head and they were too caught up in like what we were calling it, right? And at the fact of the matter is that there's some tangible things right now, whether it be the Skelly hearings and potentially having CPRA having a greater involvement in those, and also the OIG potentially sitting in those and identifying if there's a need to audit that. Um, the actual audit tasks that IG has to be able to contract out and identify that, I think that's a key area that we could work hand in hand with the monitor on, right? Because if tasks 2 and 5 continue to be tasks of concerns, or if the judge and monitor at some point feel like, well, you guys are OPD is really, really close, but these are some tasks that we're like really kind of concerned about moving forward. Well, guess what? Those should be the very first task that IG identifies to use that auditing firm to audit and start rolling, right? So they're not just arbitrary rolling tasks, but they're very targeted, intentional tasks that are part of the transition of handing over this oversight to us. And then lastly, I think I could conclude any statement I make with the fact of reiterating the importance of our independence and these self-governing issues, right? And how whether city council or the city in general, or folks have taken issue with us saying that they're actively working against us, they actually, whether that's the case or not, whether that's intentional or they're pandering to the OPOA, which we have very strong reasons to believe that's going on because of their own statements out of their own mouths. Either way, they're not supporting us, they're not championing our work, and they're not celebrating our work, right? And they should be working to build the strongest commission so that we could be in receivership of these tasks from the federal monitor and have strong oversight. And whether they feel like they're actively working against us or not, or if they publicly go on the record and say that they're for oversight and they're supporting us, their actions are of the contrary, which couldn't be more reflective than me as the sitting chair presenting to the judge as a holdover appointment that just got rejected by a second time, right? By the city council. So my own future and, potentially work on finding a permanent chief is up in question right now because of the decisions that council's making. And publicly, I've been telling everybody, as so you all know too, that, given that decision that just happened with city council most recently to reject our reappointments for a second time, that I'm committed to seeing the judge, and I don't know how much I get into this detail, but I'm committed to seeing our work through to tomorrow's case management conference. Anything beyond that, everything's on the table, and I'm reevaluating everything right now in terms of my future, right? That's publicly what my position is right now, because I have no other choice than to evaluate what I need to do, given that we keep on getting rejected, right? And I don't know if there's any resolution anytime soon. When it comes to that. So those are just the facts. And so I have no problem with bringing that up to the attention. I know, and I apologize for being late. I just got off the phone, was having some conversations with several folks that were hitting me up. But, folks are concerned, and are rightfully so, that if there's going to be a push to advocate to get off of this federal oversight, that the city's not doing a very good job in championing and supporting this local structure at home. Whether they're purposely doing it or not, whether it's nefarious or not, their actions are what their actions are, and they are currently destabilizing and not supporting our work. So I think the only thing I would ask for is, and I'll hit up IG because I see he's not on the call, hit him up on the side, but between Director Lawson and IG Malouf, if there's just like 2 or 3 talking points that are like, these are burning talking points, you have to say this, email or text us to me, or if we have those in a document somewhere, I just need to know so that I could weave that into kind of this flow of what I'm going to talk about, which is the 3 key areas that we think is going to achieve the sustained cultural change, the chief search, demonstrating that we do have skin in the game, whether we're granted a title or not, whether the judge wants to give us respect or not, whether the city council wants to support us or not, or the city in general wants to support us or not. And that includes, what we're looking at right now is the Skelly's auditing task, and transition of IAB to CIPRA, and CIPRA's greater involvement potentially in the Skelly hearings, and supporting that process. And then tying it all up with bringing it home with self-governance, and then pointing out, kind of what's been recently happening and how that's, because people are concerned that, hey, if we get off and then they dismantle us or they try to like create chaos, and then things, we're not in a position to hold that responsibility, then folks are going to be like, see, we weren't ready for that, or see, you guys gave them that responsibility and they weren't ready. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Very, very well said. I just want to, before I get to you, Micah, can you also put on your notes, in case it comes up, I just want to know, is IAB going to continue to report directly to the chief? Micah?
I just had a question about everything that Chair said and everything that you guys are saying is absolutely true. Is it something, though, that the judge can change? So when you go and you talk to him tomorrow and you say, this is happening, they're doing this or they're doing that, these are the things we can do. If you were to say that to him, is that just information you want to have on record? Or is there actually something he can do to make the city do something differently? Because if it's not something he can do to make them do something differently, then it's just kind of hanging out there.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and that's why we were concerned about even having those statements originally in the CMC statement, when we were like specifically calling out what that was. I'm
Mhm.
going to spin it more from a strength-based perspective of, despite all of that happening, and this is proof that we are a strong functioning commission and we're ready. Because imagine if they were giving us a full budget. Imagine if they fully did understand what localized civilian oversight looks like and actually championed and supported our work as volunteers, then we'd really be cooking. But we're cooking anyway, regardless if they're you know what I'm saying? We still cooking a good meal. So I want to be able to frame it in that way as as an example of how strong we really are. Because despite all those challenges, we are still doing a good job, and we're still moving these, especially when it comes to these three areas and whatever Tony's going to tell me right now too.
No, I was just gonna say, following back up on what Mika said, which I agree with, is that
Yeah. You have Mika. I'm Micah.
Micah. I'm sorry,
You're Mika.
Micah. Oh yeah, I got two.
Yes.
If you want to give us Mika, we'll take Mika too, man. You
No,
know,
man.
I'll take her.
I cannot lose Mika. But anyway, followed up on what Micah said. um, I think the CMC, the court's gonna want to know what the heck is the city gonna be able to do to change this dialogue, to move forward and reach compliance. And then from our perspective, I think what he will want to hear, if anything, is what can OPC, CIPRA, and IG do to make a difference and help compliance, right? What can these agencies do that will help the city of Oakland get beyond the continued problems with this settlement agreement? So I think our focus would have to be that, we are ready to do the following. Like with CIPRA, we can take on Skelly process. We can take on um, transitioning some of the cases from IB directly to CIPRA, and that way it will reduce the duplicity in investigations. It will simplify the disciplinary process. It allow more officers to be on the streets with the Skellies. It would allow. We have right now the should say the ability to take on eliminating the huge backlog in Skelly cases. And we had the discussions the last meeting, the last commission meeting about the number of Skelly cases out there. And I'm going to have to update you on that, because what I received most recently in the agenda from OPD says it's more like 80 or more Skelly cases pending. It's not 20 plus. So, CIPRA could be in a position where we can move forward and quickly, at least much more quickly than OPD can, manage those cases, retain outside individuals to hear the Skellies, the service Skelly officers, and therefore eliminate that huge backlog, get more officers on the street, right, who are now on leave of some type, not necessarily working, who are awaiting Skelly hearings, which could take a year or more before they're done. And then the same thing with IG. I mean, he needs to provide some things that he can do through his agency that will help reach compliance. And I think that's all the court is going to want to hear from us. Is like,
yep.
what can you do to change, the circumstance? We've kind of, backslid. What can we do to move forward?
Absolutely. And real quick, I think to answer Micah's point too, we don't have to say much around some of those challenges. I could weave it in and, kind of allude to it, right? But again, like just highlighting how strong we really are, because despite that, we still have a very clear perspective on what we can do to sustain this change and really, and to director's point, I mean, these are all great examples so I wrote those down because I want to make sure I hit those. And that's what folks want to see. They want to see more, we have staffing issues. We want to see more cops on the streets. We want to see, us being able to provide that level of support. I would guess that the plaintiffs' counsel and the folks that are still pushing the courts for us to remain under federal oversight, they're going to want to know themselves that the city council and that the city themselves aren't actively working against us, or else they're not going to support getting off of federal oversight. So again, that's not our argument to fight. You know what I mean? And then also my understanding, aside from task 2, and Director Lawson, correct me if I'm mistaken, but they've gone on the record already and they're being clear that there's no black sliding in task 2 because of CPRA. That's
Correct. Correct.
Right. So
So
I think that's kind of like, as long as that comes out and that's established, which I think it is, I don't think it's too much for us to have to like defend that, because it was messed up that the last time we were in court, they threw that in there and it felt like they threw CPRA under the bus, especially at a time when you all didn't have investigators. It was transition, right? I think it was like an easy challenge. And yeah, and if there was things that was contributing to that, then rightfully so. But now I don't think that is the case. And I think more so, I think the concerns, especially that I'm looking at from reading the report and reading what they submitted, especially the exhibits, is around, and I'll let you know right now, is around the disparity study in Task 5. I think that's going to be more of a concern to the court than anything. The internal investigation outcome and discipline report. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at that, but essentially, under it looks like the last chief's tenure, like there were no white officers being sustained for anything. And then I know that that's a big thing that's going to come up probably in tomorrow's court. So I don't know if there's
about that. Sorry,
what's
Matt.
that?
No, you're right. They went into detail about that in the whole package.
Yeah. And so I think if there's anything that CPRA or OIG could support directly related to that concern, I think that's going to also help us highlight our ability for that as well.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that requires IG to be able to do an audit to determine what the underlying factors are, because my guess would likely be it has a lot to do with assignment, right? I mean, you have a lot of the officers of color who are assigned to certain jurisdictions are assigned certain tasks and work groups, and they tend to be assigned to seems to be these task force that are going out and making these stops and doing these certain things. And that's why we get a lot of complaints regarding their activities. But we can't confirm that without an audit, right? So that's not something CIPRA is kind of tasked to do. We really respond to individual complaints. That's what the auditor should be funded to do, to look at why is this happening, right? What is behind the statistical data?
And given IG's limited resources, right? I mean, that sounds like a big task, right? Is figuring out these underlying factors for the disparities and the outcome discipline disparities. And he's sitting on Skelly hearings to try to figure out if there's something that eventually maybe needs to be audited in that process, if there's something going on there. And then lastly, working with the monitor to identify actual tasks to be able to monitor and to audit in conjunction with either the federal monitor or as like a contingency plan to getting off of federal oversight. I mean, those three things alone, I think, is probably a handful for the IG. And I'll reach out to him to see if there's anything else that he'd like to add on that. But I think those are actually three solid recommendations already, I think, that we're working with for the IG that we could talk about tomorrow.
I would like to add, at CIPRA, we see trends and concerns that we would like the be able to pass on to the auditor for analysis. But without a budget, he really can't. For example, we start seeing, we have concerns about search and seizure, right? And it may not be necessarily sustained allegations, but we start seeing consistent trends that, like, someone needs to look at this, right? We have some concerns about this and a possible, police targeting certain individuals. And it would be helpful if someone could look at the stop data, what's going on in these neighborhoods, and in a broader sense than we can as CIPRA. But we can't refer that to IG because he doesn't have the resources.
Okay. We generally talk about patterns and practice then in that regard, whether it be stop data, whether it be CID and how they're working and communicating with, victims of crime, right? I mean, these are all kind of like patterns that we could identify, that we could basically see, hey, if this is ongoing, these are things that the IG should definitely be looking into further.
To give you a specific example, profiling cannot be really identified through CIPRA because racial profiling typically is very difficult to prove in an individual context. Is really a systemic issue, right? Mm-hmm. When you start seeing why are so many people of color being stopped for the same problem, and there was actually nothing wrong at the time. That's an accumulation of data. As a class action attorney, that's something you have to address as broad issue. And that's one of the key elements. It is a settlement agreement, right? Looking at profiling and group treatment, and that can't happen unless IG's funded, because
Okay.
nobody else
No.
can not
All,
make that. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead,
No.
jump.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Chair.
All excellent. No, these are all excellent points. This is great back and forth. And the last point that you just made, Director Lawson, I thought was really good to make because there's only been one sustained discrimination case, right, in ever. So I think that's a really good point to make. And
Yeah, it's literally impossible to sustain profiling unless you have really, I mean, evidence of beyond the norm, which is somebody literally saying, I'm stopping you because you're black or something. Otherwise, you have to show that people of color or a certain group is repeatedly being stopped for without a strong basis, right? This is only happening in certain areas, certain people, and this evidence gives um, kind of a support to there being an overall problem with these stops. But you can't do it with one. You just can't show it. We may see one case where there was an order, we'll find a reason to stop them. Like we have something like that possibly, right? Other than that, you're not gonna see it because
mm,
there's always some reason you can stop a car. You know what I mean? It's always you can
yeah,
make up something. You turn too fast. You ran this light. You did. It's always a small. But when you look at it in a broader conglomerate, then you start saying, "Wait a minute. This is repeated over and over, and in the same area." And that becomes
yeah, no,
a
it's a
racial
whole,
profiling issue.
yeah,
And
no, it's a whole
only
mixed
IG can
issue.
do it. Only only IG can look at that
Yeah,
in that manner.
right. No, thank you for that. That's great feedback as well, especially for people from the public that are here. We do have four members of the public, and I do want to go to a little public comment here in a little bit in case people do want to weigh in because we're getting a little further down the line in the meeting. But then also to Micah made a really good point on in terms of what can the judge do, right? Well, the judge did put together this working group, right? He did order all together and say who's going to be in the working group. So that's one way also to frame your discussion, Chair, in terms of what you plan on saying to them. And then Vice Chair Booker, did you have a comment or a question? I thought you were going to maybe weigh in on the discussion. No?
No, not at this time.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. No worries. So we do see four people from the public. Actually, before we get to that, Katina, what are your thoughts on the discussion so far? Do you have any thoughts?
I don't have any particular comments. No, I think the the points that Chair raised and that Director Lawson also mentioned are very good ones.
Okay.
But I don't have anything specific separate from those.
All right. I agree. All right. So there are, no, I can't. Let me see. We do have four participants, and I just want to see in case anyone from the public, would you like to make a comment? If you would, please feel free to raise your hand. And if you don't, that's okay as well. I just want to give you the opportunity before we get too far along in the meeting.
What time was we supposed to be there tomorrow at the conference? Is that 3 or 3:30?
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, same place as it was last time. Courtroom 2. I'm not sure if that's the same courtroom as last time. 17th floor, courtroom 2. And then Micah also sent out an email for commissioners on where they'll be before the conference. I will not be there in case someone else from the commission wants to be there as well.
At the thing tomorrow?
Yes,
You will not be there.
I will not be there. That's correct. All
Mr.
right.
Chair,
Well,
I do, Vice Chair, I just want to make sure she's clear about this. There is an email giving specific information about where you and Chair, what you
I
chair,
saw
well,
that.
the participants should go. So make sure you look at that because that's way earlier than 3 o'clock or 3:30.
Okay.
Yep, I
Okay.
saw that. Thank you, Micah. It's in the same waiting room that we were at last time when we crashed that party last time. So we're invited to the party this time. We're making progress.
Okay.
All right. So I do want to acknowledge we have Kathy Leonard, we have Commissioner Grillo on the call as well in the public. Nancy from Oakland, not sure who that is, and we have a Sean K. I wonder if that's like the national Sean King influencer. Maybe we're getting national attention. I'm not sure, but Sean, nice to meet you. I'm just making a joke, but if anybody would like to come off mute or have any questions or input, we certainly would love to hear from the public as well.
Yeah, that's what we've invited them to do. Micah.
I have a comment. I just want to say for the record, we really take the Brown Act seriously. Anyone watching will see that we have 3 commissioners on here, including Commissioner Grillo, but he hasn't sworn in yet. So he is still a civilian. So we are still compliant. We want to make sure that he is able to listen and speak at this time, but we understand that there should only be 3 at a time for us to remain compliant. So if anyone wants to make a comment, just raise your hand. I'll take you off mute or ask you to come off mute, and then you can participate. So far, no one's raising their hand, and that's okay.
Yeah, and we don't want to put them on the spot either. We've put it out to them 3 times, and if you change your mind and would like to say something, feel free to, but also don't feel any pressure to say anything if you don't want to. That's totally fine. All right,
We have a comment.
all right, Mr. Grillo, please proceed.
I don't really have any comments. I'm just here to observe and out of surefit of caution, I'm not going to say anything because although I haven't been sworn in, I don't want anyone to, suggest that there's been any impropriety. I've learned a lot just listening to you tonight, and I look forward to being sworn in and working with everybody on this commission. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right. With that, if no one else from the public has any comments for right now, I mean, how do we feel about, or I guess I'll talk a little bit about after the CMC then, since we kind of like discussed pretty in detail what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And our next meeting after this is going to be next Monday, which is February 2nd. And I'm not sure if we discussed this publicly. We have invited another community member to join the ad hoc. If anyone here who's a community member or someone who looks at this video in the future is interested in joining the NSA Ad Hoc, please feel free to reach out to our Chief of Staff, Micah Montgomery, and we can discuss the possibility of doing that. And what we're going to discuss then, we'll probably discuss a little bit debrief on how tomorrow goes. And then we're going to also jump into discussing the Task 2 key performance indicators that we discussed previously, as well as the OPD template that we're working on revising. So those are the next things up to discuss next Monday. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? I know Vice Chair Booker, you've been taking a look at the OPD template, and I have been as well, and we can get into that next week. But does anyone else have any thoughts? Another thing, actually, before I forget, another thing that I wanted to discuss with you all about us potentially doing here is working on recommendations that would help with NSA compliance and sustainability in terms of recommendations that would be applicable to the OPOA MOU, which is something that we discussed with the city attorney's office during a police commission meeting last year, and they said that they would be open to accepting potential recommendations from us. So we can discuss that topic here during the NSA Ad Hoc either next week or the following week and see where we land on that. Katina.
I just wanted to mention about the OPD template, especially for community members, that template was created about 2 years ago. And the purpose of the template was to direct the chief or the chief designee who provided an update at the commission meetings was kind of to direct that update. Previously, the chief's update at the commission meeting had been mostly crime statistics, which were not things that particularly fall within the commission's purview. So what happened with the OPD template was that we went through the charter and the ordinances and pulled out some of the under the big ticket items that the commission has under its jurisdiction and included those in the template. So having worked with the template for the past couple of years, I think various commissioners have had ideas about things that could be removed or maybe that could be added, and probably community members have ideas as well. So that's kind of what we would be looking with in revising the OPD template, but I just wanted to give some background as to how it was created and why.
All right, thank you very much. Any other thoughts on any of the topics that I mentioned? All right. Any other questions or comments about tomorrow from anyone here or from the public? Okay, well, here we go. Someone raised their hand.
What did you say? Questions about what? Commissioner Coleman?
Questions either about future topics that I mentioned or about tomorrow in general, and then we'll get to Ms. Leonard.
Well, and Commissioner Farmer, real quick, I know you've been taking notes these last several meetings, or anything that you have that you could send to me as I'm formulating some of these talking points and getting my script together for tomorrow afternoon would be great. Yeah, and I think Ms. Leonard has her hands up as well.
But Shawana, was that?
Or do you have a comment?
Was that it?
No.
Okay. All right. Yes, Ms. Leonard, please proceed.
Good evening, commissioners. I have an unrelated question. The memorandum of understanding between the City of Oakland and the Oakland Police Officers Association expires in June of this year. Will the Police Commission be offering any suggestions on the way that the MOU can better serve the community? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Great question. And that's one of the things that we were just discussing, something that we've discussed at a police commission meeting. I want to say it was like last May, whenever the city attorney's office was there, and something that we really need to get working on and submit to them for consideration or discussion. That's what I want to discuss here, putting together a list of things and getting that in front of the full commission as soon as possible. Ideally in February or early March, if possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Will you be taking any comments from the public?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
If you or anyone else from the public would like to weigh in on this or have recommendations, please let us know. You know, I look at myself as a member, you know, I'm a commissioner, but, you know, I'm a resident, you know, of the city just like you all. And I value your opinion just as much as anyone else's. Chair, did you want to say something about that? Were you trying to say something?
Yeah, please. Sorry about that. Yeah, excuse me. I think couple of thoughts. One, I think because this group is identifying what local oversight and action looks like, what we're doing currently and what we're trying to go. I think this group is probably the best group to actually come up with these recommendations based off of what we're seeing, based off of the lens that CPRA, IG, again, we're talking about patterns and practice and things that we've been able to identify that, you know, simply may be creating either backlogs or entanglements, or some may even say bankrupting the city. So I think as we're looking at certain of these things, there's a certain purview that we have that we could offer the city. Now, whether they take it and are successful in negotiating these things with the MOU, at least they know that there was a community process, that we identified things from our purview and gave them some really good information that they need to consider and officially submit something. I think when we heard from the person last year that negotiates the MOU, they stated that the commission has never in the past submitted recommendations, but they would be open to that, from what I recall. And so I think we should definitely take advantage of that opportunity and offer that as an assistance to the city. I would also say if that, then because of the tight turnaround, that may be one of the things that this group kind of pivots to in terms of like our next task, and including whatever the next CMC is going to be, depending on what happens tomorrow. But I say that to say that we may also want to solicit and open it up to other community members that may have backgrounds in collective bargaining, in the union process, and that could actually help provide some insights to this ad hoc, in providing those recommendations.
Yeah, no,
Right.
great.
And I think that Reginald Lyles would be a great a community member to offer some suggestions. He's a former police officer, and he always gets right to the issues. I served with him on the Discipline Matrix Committee, and we've just had a lot of wonderful conversations about changes that need to be made to the matrix. So it'd be, I think it would be great to have him included. And if it's going to be an ad hoc, or if it's going to be part of this ad hoc committee, which I think I agree it should be, that would be great. Thank you.
No, great suggestion, and I will make it a point in my notes to reach out to him specifically. Um, yeah, and any other suggestions that come from the public, that would be great. Please let us know. Or if you have any other people that you think we should reach out to, please let us know. I know I already have a list of some suggestions that I worked on previously that we can start the discussion off with. So we have somewhere to start for sure. Um, let's see. Anyone else? How do other people on the panel feel about having that on the agenda for next week? Because we do need to get working on that sooner rather than later. I don't think the task two KPIs thing. We only had one change to make to it last time. So my personal thoughts are, if we do want to move forward with that still, that's going to be a quick discussion. And but this is kind of a more in-depth discussion. It's definitely not something you can discuss just once and then that's it. I think we definitely need to discuss it, 2 or 3 times and make sure we get good input. Maybe put it on the agenda at a future police commission meeting, like plan to do that now. And yeah, take it from there. But I think just one thing, just to mention, even if, the recommendations that we come up with or people from the community come up with um, don't necessarily, regardless of where those end up, I think that just like something that could be done to get like the part of the intent of this is, I guess what I'm trying to say is to get OPOA and us and OPD all together on the same page, especially in terms of narratives, and to have us all working more closely in lockstep together. Not to say that we're not at all at this point, but even we can always improve that relationship. And that's what this is all about. This isn't about us undermining OPD in any way whatsoever. This is about helping the city be successful and sustainable in terms of NSA compliance, constitutional policing compliance. And a big part of constitutional policing is providing deliverables to the community. So this isn't all about just them doing the bare minimum and being in accordance with the law, but it's also about being in lockstep with the commission and the community. Katina put something in the chat. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments about this topic? Any other future topics, or about tomorrow? All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Chair, you're ready to go for. I'll send you that email. Sorry, I can't be there tomorrow. I have another.
I hope I feel better than I do right now. I I'm working on a 10-hour day, no food, and I'm starting to feel a little loopy. And I've been fighting off a cold a little bit. So I hope I'm all together by tomorrow, man. I'll try to make sure I'm in a better place. But yeah, I should be ready.
I'm sure you're going to do great. So I'm sure everything's going to go as well as we can, make it go. So it's not really in our control. We'll do the best that we can. And thank you all for being here. If there were no other questions or comments, the meeting is adjourned.
Let me check on the public real quick, or guess. No, I don't see any hands up or anything. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go. All right, everybody, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Have a good night.